Hello, it is me again, Becky. Thanks for stopping by for another Bookmas video. Today, I'm sharing with you my series check-in for the year. I'm going to share with you the series that I've caught up on, meaning that the most recent book I've read, and I'm just waiting for the next one in the series to release. Series that I need to continue, meaning the next book is already out, and I just haven't finished out the series. Series that I've DNF'd, ones I've given up on, and a series that I've completely finished, meaning there are no more books published in that series, and if future books should be published in that series, I don't know if I would ever return to them because I've pretty much finished the series. I've read the books that are currently released, and I'm good. Let's start with the series that I am caught up on. First up, we have the Spell Shop series by Sarah Beth Durst. This, I think you could read all of the books as standalones if you wanted to. There's nothing really significant that connects them other than that they're in the same world. And there's slight connections, but if you didn't know that slight connection, you wouldn't be disappointed with it. But I've read the first two books, The Spell Shop and The Enchanted Greenhouse, and there is a third book coming out next year called Sea of Charms, I think. So I am excited to get to that. This is a cozy fantasy romance series. Next up is the King of Sin series by Anna Wong. I just read the most recent book in this, King of Envy. The next one, I think it's King of Gluttony, comes out next year. So for now, I am all caught up with the series and I'm so happy about it. This is a billionaire contemporary romance series. And I don't know what Anna Wong puts in the audiobooks because I've listened to all of these books on audio. They're duet, I know that, and I love that. But some books, while I might not have loved the characters or loved the storyline as much as others, I still cannot help but get through these books lickety-split because I am so engrossed in what I'm listening to. Then we have the Sandsea trilogy by Chelsea Abdullah. I just reread book 1 this year, and then I read book 2 last month. So who knows when the third book is coming out because the second book took 2 years or 2 or 3 years to come out. So who knows when I will get to book 3. But for now, I am caught up. This is a adult fantasy that is inspired by 1001 Nights, and I really enjoy the characters in here. I am also all caught up on the Dragon's Heart series by M.A. Frick. This is an author that I just discovered this year, and I binged both of the books that she had out. Now I cannot wait for the third and final book to come out in spring of 2026. This is a dragon fantasy romance, age gap forbidden romance. Low on the spice, high on the steam and the sexual tension, let me tell you. Book 1, do not go into book 1 expecting a lot of dragons, even though this is a dragon fantasy romance. It's more romantic based than fantasy based, okay? But the dragons do make a much more prominent appearance in book 2. So just be warned of that, but I loved this series and I'm so glad I found this thanks to my friend Crystal. So cannot wait to continue. Next up is the Stonewater Kingdom series by Rachel Gillig. I didn't even know that was the title of this series, to be honest. I just refer to it as The Knight and the Moth. So I loved book 1. I was actually surprised by this because I was just met about it while I was reading a lot of it, but around the 50% mark, I became obsessed. And I cannot wait to see where that cliffhanger at the end of book 1 leads to when book 2 releases in 2026. I don't know if it's going to be a duology or a series, but I'm excited nonetheless. This is I want to say a gothic romance fantasy. It's much more fantasy focused than romance, but it does have that romance in there. Then I have Empire of Eternal Night by Jasmine Wall. I read the first book this year for my book club. It was The Vampire's Bargain. Really enjoyed it. A very different type of fantasy romance that I'm used to. It's an urban fantasy romance with vampires and witches and wolves and all this jazz. But I liked that the characters weren't your cliche fantasy romance characters. They did a little something different. And it just had twists and turns that I didn't see coming. I don't know when the author is going to release book 2, but for now I'm caught up. Then I have Love's Academic by India Holton. I loved this first book, The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love. Such a quirky, dumb character, historical romance. I laughed It was so much fun. I didn't love book 2 though. I was disappointed with book 2, but the third book releases next year and I am excited to continue to see what that one will bring to me. Like I said, this is a cozy historical romance with a little bit of magic. I wouldn't call it a fantasy romance because it takes place in the real world, but it has a slight bit of magic. So maybe magical realism. Paranormal romance if we want to stretch it. I also have the Pisk Sweet and Sour. I'm hoping this will be a series. She said it was going to be a series by Natalia Hernandez. Oh no. What is this? It's like a film on the back that's coming off of my book. Okay, well, the film came off of my book, which was disappointing. I don't know why that happened. It pulled some of the coloring off, so I may have to get a new one of these books if the sequel ever comes out, but whatever. Anyway, this is supposed to be a series. The author told me she was writing another one, but I don't know when that's going to happen. This is a cozy paranormal romance set in, I believe, Peru, and it was just so sweet. As the title suggests, the sweet and sour. It's sweet, but it also has some spice to it. So I really like this. It's about a girl who can talk to animals. Why wouldn't I love that? So excited whenever the second book comes out. And now my pretty edition is all fucked up, but oh well. The book itself isn't. Just that, which sucks because I think this is signed. Yeah, it is. It's a signed copy, so ah well. I'm also caught up on the Fae of the Roaring Age series by Marilyn Marks. This is a historical paranormal series. I think it does venture into fantasy in the second book more so than in this book, but in this one it's set in New York City in the 1920s. It's not very fantastical, let me tell you. But it is about Fae, and it's got some Celtic mythology in there, and I really enjoyed the first book. The second book, less so, but I still enjoyed it. So hopefully the third book is the third book and it ends the series so I can complete it whenever it comes out. I would probably have to reread the first and second book though, because it's been a while. I'm also all caught up on Outlander for the bazillionth year in a row. I have read all of these books up until Go Tell the Bees We Are Home. I know the latest book has a title. I don't know if it has a release date. And I just got caught up on the Eating Woods series by Carrie Lake. I just finished Eldritch, which is the second book and the most recent release. I don't know the title of the third book, and I don't know when it's going to come out, but for now, I'm all caught up. This is a dark, gothic fantasy romance. I really love the characters, but I'm going to need this to just be a trilogy because I can't take much more trauma for these characters, let me tell you. Now let's talk about the series that I need to continue. I need to make progress in these. Some of them I only need maybe one book to finish out the series, but I just haven't got to it yet. First up is the Stars and Shadows series by Holly Renee. I have this book down on my TBR shelf because I've only read the first book. I liked the first book. I have the omnibus of, I think, the first 3 books that I still need to read, and I just haven't gotten around to it. Hopefully in the new year, I will make progress in this series. I don't think I will finish it out by next year, but I would like to at least get the second book read. Then I have Madame Tam's Freak Show by Marina Simcoe. This is one that I've had on my series to continue for probably 2 years now. I just have this one last book to finish, and then I could say I've completed this series. Did I make it a priority to read this year? No. But I'm still very much interested in finishing out this series, so I'm not going to put an ultimatum on myself. Then I have the Dragonkin series by G.A. Aiken. This is a series that I've slowly been rereading. I didn't reread a single book in this series this year, which disappoints me. I was doing good. I was reading about a book or 2 a year to get caught up. I think I'm maybe on the 4th or 5th book now that I need to reread and then continue on with. But I still love this series. So I'm going to continue rereading it and putting it on my series to continue until I finish it out. The Silveri Sisters series by R.L. Mendina. I think I have the second book in this series on my Kindle. I've only read the first book, but I liked the first book and I would like to continue it. So this is a series that I'm going to put an ultimatum on myself because it's a series that I'm just lukewarm about. I liked it, but I didn't love it. But because I own the second book, I feel like I should just continue on with the series. And they're not really long books. So if I don't get the second book in this series read next year, I'm going to DNF this series for good. If I read the second book, then I'm going to continue on with it. But this is one I'm putting an ultimatum on myself. Then I have The House Witch by Delamock. I have the second book in this as an audiobook. It was one of my 10 before the end. Have I gotten to it by the time I filmed this video? Nope. But because I own the second book on audio and I liked this book, I do want to continue. It will depend on how I feel after the second book if I want to continue further into this series. If I don't end up liking the second book, I may DNF this series come next year. I then have Falling for Fables series by Jenna Wolfhart. I think I was doing good with this. I read the first 3. I think there's 5 out now. So I need to make progress with this series. And this is one that I really did enjoy. And I just didn't know that more books had come out. The Eversea series by L.J. Andrews. I read the first book. I have been slowly making progress on the second book for months, let me tell you. I've been reading a few chapters here and there whenever I feel the need to. I'm liking the second book. I'm just not super engrossed and obsessed with it, but I'm liking it. And so I haven't given up on it, and I still like the series. And even though the first 2 books are just a duology, I would like to continue on to The Mist Thief, and then I think she has plans for a 4th book after that that's connected to The Mist Thief. So I'm making my way through it. The Divine Between series by Jess Wisecup. I've read the first 2 books. I have the 3rd book on audio. I don't know if it's going to be more books than that or not, but if I could get that 3rd book read, I think I would be caught up because I don't think there's a 4th book yet. If there is, I don't know about it. Then we have the Love in Galway series by Ivy Fairbanks. I read this first book, absolutely loved it. 6-star read, my favorite book of the year so far. I know there is another book out. I don't know if there's more beyond that, but if I could just get that 2nd book, I would be caught up. But by the time I read that 2nd book, there's probably going to be a 3rd book. So, in progress. The Tether series by Shanora Williams. I read this first book. I think I gave it 4 stars. I liked it, but I haven't ever moved on. I'm putting an ultimatum on myself for this one. If I don't read the 2nd book in 2026, this is going to be a series that I DNF because, once again, while I liked the first book, I wasn't obsessed with it, and I need motivation to continue on. So if I haven't made progress in this series by the end of 2026, it's going to get the axe. History Interrupted by Lizzie Ford. I've read the first 2 books. As far as I know, there is only 1 other book in this series. I would imagine there would be 4 because there's 4 directions, and so far I've read West and East. I think North is the next one out. So if I could read North, I would be caught up on it until South is released. And I do want to continue on with this series to see what happens with these characters. Then we have the Perfectly Imperfect series by Neva Otage. I have one of the books left on my e-reader to read. However, I think that I am going to have to put an end to this series myself because I don't see this series ending anytime soon. And I'm just getting too far behind. Unless I can get in a really good headspace where I just binge the rest of the books that are currently out. I want to say there's probably 3 or 4 currently out that I haven't read. If I don't like the next book that I read in this, I think I'm just going to put an end to it myself, because it's getting so long and I just don't want to continue losing pace with this series that I love. I need it to end at some point and I just don't see a stopping point for it. With this generation and then the next generation books, it's getting too much for me. The Gods of the Duat series by Alessa Thorne. I read this first book set, absolutely loved it, gave it 5 stars. I need to read the other 2. Now, this is a series that revolves around all different types of mythological gods and goddesses. It has Greek gods, Roman gods, I think Norse gods as well. And then we have like an Egyptian god trilogy. I am just interested in the Egyptian god trilogy within this series of books she has. I'm not worried about all the other ones. I started with this one. I liked this one. So if I could finish out the other 2 in this, I would be happy. I plan to. I'm going to at some point. Then we have These Immortal Truths, book 1, Peaches and Honey. I liked this book. I really liked this book, actually. I think I gave it 5 stars. And it just has a sequel. It's just a duology. And I just haven't read that 2nd book. if I could, I'd finish this duology. I actually think, don't take my word for this, but when I was searching Amazon, I saw that this had a different cover to it, and it was called These Immortal Truths. So I'm wondering if this author hasn't been picked up for traditional publishing and they've combined both books into one. That would be interesting. Go her if that happens to be true. Then we have the Willis series by Robert Beatty. This is a middle grade duology, I think. I think so far it only has one other book out. I don't know if it plans to be a series or not, but if I could read that one book, I would be at least caught up, if not finished. I really enjoyed this middle grade series. Then we have the Temperance series by Stephanie Fisher. I loved this fantasy romance. It was a very different fantasy romance, highly underrated. I loved the first 2 books, and I do know the 3rd book has been put out. I'm just waiting for the audiobook and on any platform I can get it, because I've listened to the first 2 on audio. So as soon as I'm able to get that 3rd book on audio, I will complete this series. I may have to reread books 1 and 2 though, just to refresh my memory. Then we have the Bargaining series by Hollis Darling. I read this first book. I got it for free. I read it in a reading vlog. Really enjoyed it. This is a paranormal romance more so than fantasy romance, but I really liked the direction this went in. I have a feeling this might be a love triangle type situation. I'm hoping it's not, but if it is, I might just be intrigued to like it because I liked the dynamics that I got in this first book. Then we have the Rogue Ethereal series by Annie Anderson. I read this first book, Woman of Blood and Bone. This is a witchy paranormal thriller series that I really enjoyed. I really liked the female main character and the platonic friendships in here and the hint at a romance that could be to come. I don't know. But I got this really pretty edition when I went to Imaginarium. And because I liked the book and I got this pretty edition, I definitely want to continue on to see where it goes. I'm going to Imaginarium again next year, and I think she's another attending author, so maybe I could find the sequel to this series at her table. Then we have the Enchanted Highlands series by Trisha O'Malley. I thought I was caught up with this series. I thought I was. Because I have listened to all of these books on audio, but apparently when I went to look, a more recent book has been published and I just never knew about it. So I need to catch up with that one because I do know another one is being released next year, I believe. So yeeks, I fell behind. And the last series that I need to catch up on is The Sands of Mayoria by Atlee Wykes. I read this prequel and first book in this series. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I have the next book already on my Kindle. I bought it. I'm looking forward to reading it because this first book ended on a freaking cliffhanger. And I really like the character dynamics, so I plan to continue this series as quickly as I can. I just need to make progress on it. Now let's talk about the series that I have DNF'd. I either gave myself an ultimatum last year that if I didn't finish or make progress in these series that I would DNF them this year, or I had every intention of reading this series, but I didn't like the first book for some reason, and I just decided to call it quits. First up, we have the Marked by Blood series by Rebecca L. Garcia. I liked this first book. I think I gave it 4 stars. I owned a physical copy of it, but last year I said that if I didn't read the second book in the series, that it was time to DNF it because I just wasn't making it a priority. And lo and behold, I never got around to even thinking about the second book. So I have since unhauled this first book and I've decided to just DNF it. Then I DNF'd Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. I read this first book. I think I gave it 4 stars. I liked it well enough, but I didn't really love it enough to care about where the characters went into the second book and if there would be potentially a third book. I thought the first book ended at a place that would be sufficient to end a story, in my opinion. So I was like, you know what? I read it, I liked it well enough, but I have no desire to continue the series. Then I DNF'd the Horned Holiday series by Honey Phillips. Again, I read this first book. I really enjoyed it, but I gave myself an ultimatum last year that if I didn't continue on with this series, it was time to DNF it, and look at me now. The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. I owned this very pretty book that I got at a Polycon one year. I liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars again, but last year I gave myself the ultimatum that if I didn't make progress in it, it was time to DNF it. Here we are. I never even thought of this series the entire year. I haven't heard the best things about book 2. I've heard book 3 is slightly better, but I don't know. I never gave it a second thought. It was fine while I was reading it. I enjoyed it while I was reading it, but time to go, I guess. Autopsy of a Fairy Tale is a series that I thought I would read the entire series because I liked this author's other book, The Scattered Bones. Again, I had fun with this. I think I gave it probably a 3.5 star. It just wasn't the type of story that engrossed me. It was more of a paranormal fairy tale retelling thriller type thing. And I just didn't ever care to continue past this first book. The Deep Water series by Emma Hamm. Again, I liked this first book. I owned this first book. I gave it 4 stars. However, I wasn't super obsessed with the characters, and I just did not want to read another series of tiny little woman with huge merman with weird dick. You know, I just didn't want to continuously read the same character dynamic book after book after book. And I knew that's where it was going to go. I knew there was never going to be a different character dynamic within the series. I was hoping for maybe a female mer with a male human, or even a female mer with a male of her own species type of romance, but I know I'm not going to get that from this author. So I just don't care to read the same thing on repeat, because I only really, I may have even given this first book 4.5 stars. I liked it. I really, really did. But if you're just going to repeat the same type of character dynamics over and over and over for a lengthy series, I don't want to read it. I don't. The Love Repair series by Nia Arthurs. Now, I did make progress. I read the second book this year because I said last year that if I didn't make progress in it, I wasn't going to continue with the series. So I did make progress. However, I didn't like the second book in this series, and this is a lengthy series. It's 7 or 8 books. And because I didn't like the second book, and I didn't want to commit to 8 books in this series, I decided to DNF it. The Sea of Roses duology by Opal Rain. Again, I loved this first book. It was truly an enemies to lovers pirate fantasy romance? Yeah, I think it was fantasy romance. Loved it. However, these books are freaking lengthy, okay? And I gave myself an ultimatum that if I did not get to the sequel, that I was going to DNF it. I didn't even think about this series this year. I would still very much recommend this series if you're into seafaring, piratey fantasy romances. Definitely check out the first book at least. It does end on a cliffhanger, I know that, and I had every intention of continuing. I just never did. It never crossed my mind. So, unless I could get that second book for free somehow, I'm done with it. And the last series that I DNF'd was the Dirty Blood series by Penelope Bersetti. I loved the first 3 books in this. I binged them back to back to back. I had a hell of a good time reading them. They are 90% smut, 10% plot type books, okay? I loved the characters though. It's got a very snarky snake familiar in it that I just loved. He was my favorite character. And I would reread these first 3. I would. But by the time we got to the 4th book, it had changed to a different character perspective that I wasn't the biggest fan of. And at that point, the dynamics had shifted from fun time to annoyance for me. So I DNF'd it at the 4th book. And to end things off on a positive note, let's talk about the 10 series or duologies that I finished this year. I'm super proud of that. I don't know if 10 has been the common number of series that I've finished when I share my series updates at the end of the year. I don't know. I would have to go back and watch my previous videos. But I'm pretty proud of the fact that I finished 10 series. Could it be better? Yeah, it could. Could it be worse? Yeah, it could. So the first series that I finished out this year was the Perfect Water series by Leisha McCoy. This is one that I gave myself an ultimatum for. If I didn't finish out the 3rd and final book, then I was going to DNF it. And I am happy to say I finished it out. This is a black mermaid paranormal romance. I also finished out the Ruinous Love series by Brynne Weaver. I really liked the 1st and 3rd book of this series. The 2nd book was my least favorite. If she put out more books in this, I don't know that I would continue reading them because I've just had my fill of the serial killer romances, you know. I liked these while they had their moment in time, and I'm glad to say I finished out these 3. I also finished out the All the King's Men series by Kennedy Ryan. I just needed to read Queen Move, and I did that this year. This was another series that I gave myself the ultimatum that if I didn't read Queen Move this year, I was going to DNF the series, and I'm really glad that I did because Queen Move ended up being a friends to lovers romance. Like I knew. And while it wasn't my favorite of this series by any means, I still really enjoyed it, and I still really highly recommend this series as a whole. I'm also really happy to say that I finished out the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy, finally. I hope to God she never writes more books in this series. I can't take anymore. I'm done with it. I still own the first 4 books because I still really enjoyed the first 4 books. But those last 2 books, man, they were a slog to get through and I hated it by the time I finished it. I also finished out the McCabe series by Maya Banks. I just had to read 1 book in this series to finish it out, but I had to reread them because I wanted to reread them. And I just hadn't read the 3rd book in this series. So this is a historical romance that I finally managed to finish. I also finished the Skyland series by Kennedy Ryan. I really loved the first book in this series. The 2nd book I didn't love, and the 3rd book I liked, but it wasn't as great as the first book in my opinion. So I finished it out, but if she continued to put more in this series, I don't think I would continue on with the series just because nothing has stood up to that first book in my opinion. I then read The Last Daughter duology, both books 1 and 2 this year. I really loved this first book, so I immediately jumped into the 2nd book. This is a Norse mythology inspired fantasy romance, and the character dynamics in here I just freaking loved. I ate up. The same thing can be said for the Fate's Thread duology by Sophie Kim, The God and the Cameo and The God and the Quissen. I loved this book so much, I just jumped right into the 2nd book, I think in the same month. That's how much I loved this. I had such a fun time reading this duology. If you are a fan of K-pop Demon Hunters, you need to read this duology. They are so much fun. You follow this very grumpy god and this 9-tailed fox in their relationship, and the banter is so fun. The world is so fun, especially in book 2. You get to be on a cruise ship in the underworld. I'm so glad I read this duology this year. I also finally finished the Ship of Shadows duology by Maria Kuznar. This is a middle grade duology at the moment. I don't know if she plans on putting more into this series. If she did, I don't think I would continue reading them because I liked the first 2 books. I don't think I need more from it. And I also finished out the Vengeance Road duology by Erin Bowman. I just had the one other book, Retribution Rails, to read this year, and I managed to do it. As far as I know, it's just a duology. And I'm good. I don't think I need to read any more in this if she put any more into it. So yay, another one finished. And that is it for my series check-in for 2025. Let me know down below, what was the last series you finished? But if you don't want to comment that but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you leave me a chain emoji? Because I need to complete some of the books in these chains already. But if you don't want to comment that but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video. Wait, did I already say that? Yeah, I already said that. God, Becky. And with that, until tomorrow's video, happy Bookmas. Bye.